Hey y'all, welcome to Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. I'm Mandy. I'm just a mom sitting down with real Texans having real conversations about what's going on in our schools. Today, I am so excited to be joined by a mother of two, the former manager of the HISD school board, and an education and parent advocate that has been all across our great state advocating for you. Welcome, Cassandry Bandy.
Hi, Mandy.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's such a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm a huge fan because you, like me, you're a mom. You're a mom of littles, you're a mom of kids in school, and you're a mom that's fighting with other moms to make sure that their future are bright. So let's jump into what got you involved in the education space. You know, I mentioned that you were appointed to be on the Houston School Board when it was taken over. It was incredibly controversial. But as a fourth generation HISD parent, you saw the need and you felt the call and you went. So talk to us a little bit about why you jumped into that very controversial role and what we see now. We're seeing a lot of gains, which is encouraging, and let's talk about where we need to go. So how did you end up being appointed to that role on the board?
Right. Well, thank you for that question. So my interest was sparked kind of just like every other Houstonian. You heard about it through whatever social media or newspaper. And I got to be honest, I was really ignorant. I was like, I just want to help fix the schools.
Yeah.
And I say ignorant, but that was just really purely, it was a simple kind of desire to help fix the schools. You mentioned that I'm the parent of fourth generation HISD students. We're sixth generation Texans in our family. We take our state and our city and our schools very personally. And for me, it was more about having a seat at the table, having the honor and opportunity to serve my community in this very sensitive time with something that was truly unprecedented. It's never been done before anywhere. A large urban school district under intervention, and there was a lot of work to do. Again, I mentioned that we're fourth generation parents of HISD students. My grandparents went to a school that was an underperforming school. My parents did, my husband and I did, and those were not the schools that we recognized, or the community that we recognized. And so we knew what it could be. We knew what it produced. We're very proud of our legacy. And we're proud to still be HISD parents. Our kids love their school. They're thriving. And it was just really an honor to serve the community in that capacity.
That's awesome. I think I'm so glad that you have an opportunity to kind of talk about why you took that on. And I think that's why obviously the entire newly appointed board that was inserted went in a lot of controversy for really no reason. I remember you and I were at an event recently, and Representative Harold Dutton broke it down in the best, most clear way possible. So for those of our viewers that may not know, the reason that HISD was taken over is because of chronically failing schools.
That's right.
And when we looked at the data, there were schools that year after year after year, we just kept promoting kids, sending them through a school that was failing them. And what Representative Dutton said was, when we passed the law to be able to take over a school, I never thought that HISD would not get its act together. But 5 years of failure. We didn't take it over. They handed it over to us. And I said, amen, man. That is it. That's the truth. They handed it over and said, somebody come and fix it. And you did. And God bless you for stepping up and stepping into that role. Because oftentimes on social media, I know we saw a lot of the negative, the negativity and the criticism. And the reality was you were there because your kids were in that school district. You went to that school district. Your parents and grandparents went to that school district. And you wanted to see a course correction. So
absolutely.
Thank you for stepping in and doing that.
Yeah.
So now a lot of the work that you're doing is really you advocate for parents and for better education systems and opportunities. And so let's talk a little bit about what you're talking to parents and education reformers and leaders in the public school system and in the private school system now about what's on the horizon.
Yeah, no, that's great. One thing and again, being a public school graduate and having this legacy in my family, I'm very pro public school. We need public schools. We need good, strong public schools. We need good schools, period. And that's, the lens I'm looking at everything through is what does the market look like? What does the education industry look like for our children? And just like any other industry or any other product line, we can pick and choose what we want. We can customize this. We can get this off the shelf. We can do it this way. We could not do it. We can take things in DIY. We can. And why can't we apply that same principle to parents choosing how they want their children to be educated? I think it's very important. We've seen time and time again, and these are, we can Google any story about a mom who was convicted, arrested, or indicted for sending her child to a different school than what she was zoned to.
Yep.
All in...
That happened. Arrested.
Let's Google it, right? It's there. It's an old story. You're right. This isn't necessarily...
Stealing an education.
Stealing an education. And so what we are doing is... It's just mind-boggling, and it's really heartbreaking because what that mom went through, how she sacrificed and did whatever she could with the resources she could to get her child in a school. And instead of some type of grace extended to her for this, she's basically punished. Yep. And that is one, and we can have two and three. We can have many examples of that. And for me, that is a non-starter. Yep. I mean, what we want is engaged parents. I think a child, no matter what school they go to, if they have an engaged parent, that child is winning.
Yep, that's
that
right.
child is absolutely winning. And so I'm an advocate for education. I think parents should be able to pick and choose where they want their child to go to school. I don't think anyone should be punished. I think everyone should be resourced for their kids to go to school. And there's a lot of, to the point of HISD, things get so political around kids, and I just refuse.
Good for you.
I just refuse because that's a non-starter for me. We need to talk about solutions. We need to talk about what's best for our children and developing them because they are the future of our cities, of our states, of our country. And if they're not well equipped, what does the future look like? Right?
Yeah, I love that you say that without going down the political road, which it seems like everything goes down that way. The love of children, wanting to see the next generation thrive and flourish here in Texas. But you also kind of touched on something that is important to note, is it really is not political. We have seen out of the Barbara Jordan Center of Public Policy, every couple of months, they're releasing poll after poll after poll specifically on school choice, education savings accounts. They've changed up the language, vouchers. They've tried to make it where people really understand. And time again, it comes back that across the political spectrum, Republican, Democrat, Independent, that it is a strong majority. I'm talking from 60s to 80 percentile that people support it, and across the racial spectrum.
That's right.
So whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, all support it. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on, particularly because the majority of the students in HISD are minority students, is that component of Black Texans. And we are seeing a revolution, is what I would call it, in the Black community. I got to witness this at the Juneteenth event at Texas Southern, where that more and more members of the Black community have said, we are not going down the political spectrum with our kids. We are not going down that road. We are talking about what's best for kids. So let's hear about what is being said in your community, both in the Black community, particularly in the faith-based community, where you have an army that's joined with you on this battle to make sure that these kids in Houston ISD and across Texas have access to a great education. So let me hear what's going on.
Yeah, that's a great context because, and I also want to caveat something. We are seeing the data now, and we're so grateful for the Barbara Jordan School of Public Policy. But what's interesting, Mandy, is that Black and brown communities have always been dissatisfied with their schools. So that part is not new.
That's right.
Right? That is why we see the charters coming in and offering an open enrollment option in those communities, right? Because by and large, we are the most dissatisfied with our school down the street.
Yep.
Right. And so thankfully we are seeing that data. The numbers are there. We have this new program that's coming. So it's incentivizing a lot of people to learn and understand. And to your point, I'm so very grateful to the leaders in our faith-based community. I mean, Black churches have always been a leader in the community.
Yep.
There, full stop. There, no matter what was happening in society, in our communities, the Black church has always been a place for leadership, for gathering, for coming up with solutions. It was a safe place for us to share, and so much was born out of that. So much was born out of the Black church. So it only makes sense for our faith-based organizations to be leading this charge. I mean, this is what has happened. This is what we do.
To reclaim and restore
there you go.
Education.
There you go.
That's the charge that you're talking about.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's truly a call to action.
Yes.
It's truly a call to action. And when we were at the Juneteenth Summit, and I was on the panel with some very great leaders in this space, my thing, I'm always going to take the opportunity to say, hey, by the way, this is a great opportunity to really do something and take back and reclaim educating our children the way we want them educated. Yeah. So what are we going to do about it? Who's going to stand up? And the church is an amazing place to start. They have the infrastructure. They have the organization.
That's right.
They are already doing very rigorous Sunday school classes on Sunday. They understand teaching children.
Yep.
So Monday through Friday, what are we going to do with those amazing Sunday school classes? We should start a micro school.
Yep.
We should start a big school. We should collaborate with other churches in the community. And I'm so happy to see that the faith-based community is coming out. They want to be educated. They want to understand. So many of them had schools before COVID.
Right.
So it's not very difficult to restart. They already have everything in place. And I'm just so excited. After that summit, my phone was ringing off the hook to come and just explain, what this program is.
What the education savings account is. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, right. Thank you. What the education savings account is, because it is new to people who are new to people, right? Because, a lot of us who have been on this journey have been studying, and we understand what's going to happen, for, even the latecomers have at least been in it for 2 years.
Right.
Right. And so what happens is, and this is what I'm finding, Mandy, across all socioeconomic classes, faith-based, just educators interested, private, public, charter, people are not understanding really what this means.
Right.
It's new to Texas.
It is.
It's brand new to Texas. And how many 34 other states? Okay, so
school choice, that's right.
Right. And so we've seen this across the country in pockets, but for Texans, I think we just get the narrative. We just get the hot points because it's not lived experience for us just yet. But what is lived experience is that we want more options.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm happy to say that people are very open to understanding. I mean, I think that, there's still some walls up. I did a podcast yesterday that was amazing. And at the end of it, I'm just happy to hear people say, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That it is, and it's so encouraging because it is a communications game now. Because the reality is that the whole parent empowerment movement, all of this, what you and I do, talking to communities, talking to legislative leaders, talking to faith-based leaders, talking to community leaders, and saying we've got to recognize there's problems. And then here are ways to address them. And that's what the ESA can do, the Education Savings Account. So for those that are watching that may not, know, maybe they're watching because this is the first time they're hearing about it from you. What this has done is open the door for families to apply to receive an Education Savings Account. And about $11,000. It depends on where the final public education numbers come in, because it is directly tied. It's 85% of what kids in the public school get, so they're not getting more than what kids in public school get. But it's about $11,000 that a parent can say, my child is in 4th grade and hasn't learned to read, or my child is struggling and is being bullied, or their IEP isn't being met, or my child needs a faith-based community. Maybe I'm a single parent and I want a preacher or that faith-based community to help me raise my child up in the way that they should go. Whatever it is, it really does give that power back to a parent, particularly in the low-income, most disadvantaged socioeconomic class, which is in our urban areas, the majority of these kids. And it says, if you're dissatisfied for that school, because you said it, the majority of Black and brown parents have been dissatisfied. If you're dissatisfied with that school that your child is assigned to, then you have options.
Yeah.
Would you like them to go to the private school, the Catholic school, the Christian school? And you touched on it. That Juneteenth event was amazing because there were over 200 Black education and church leaders in that space. Even public school teachers. There were some public school teachers that came up afterwards and said, we want to start a micro
Public
school.
school parents were there.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do we do this? How do we create or access the best environment for my kid? And that was just, it was, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, they're free at last.
Well,
and that's what every time I see it, I'm like, you have the agency. Now you choose.
Well, and it's a balance, right? Because we are talking about I'm going to just call it an industry because that's what we have to look at. And the industry has been lacking competition,
yes,
and incentives to do things and to improve student outcomes because things get really caught up, entangled, and then we lose focus.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this is not malicious intent. There are some hardworking people all across the education space, right?
But then they'll talk about the system or the industry and how they can't do what they want to do. God bless them. They are like, we are handcuffed.
That's right.
And so you're the 100%. This is not denigrating the individuals. It's not an individual problem. It is a systemic problem.
It's a system problem. Yeah. And the system, and, it's just, the reality is we can't always look to the system to fix itself.
It doesn't.
There has to be sometimes some external pressures and factors, right? And so one thing I was going to touch on, I want to go back to when we talk about parents. So I'm on the board of Bethel's Family Christian Academy in Houston. 50% of our students' families receive some type of subsidy to even pay for private school.
Yes.
Our school is fully tuition based. Our kids don't get scholarships. So you're talking about parents that are working and sacrificing to send their kids to a private school today.
Yes. Right?
And think about the relief that an ESA account is going to be to those parents.
Yep.
I look to them because those are the folks that have been doing it, that have made options and that have chosen to. And what a relief to them and a reward for their sacrifice their family deserves is resources.
Yes.
To help supplement their education.
That in our social contract, we already say every child deserves these resources.
That's right. That's right.
That's something that I think is really important. As a state, our social contract and literally our Constitution says, our Texas Constitution says that every child has the right to access this.
Yes. Yes.
And so that is really, really important. And it's the choice. I also think it's important, and I think that we will see this in Houston ISD. We're already seeing it in San Antonio ISD. I just saw about 2 weeks ago they released a statement saying, we're doing open enrollment in our district. A lot of families don't realize it's not just about saying you can send your child to a private school, but really those of us in the reform space have been saying for years that open enrollment, intra-district open enrollment, and outer district open enrollment should be a component of parent choice.
That's right.
And people don't realize that the school districts, particularly the ones that are doing well, let's go with Lovejoy ISD, for example, they were charging $9,000 tuition from families that were out of district. They were charging $9,000 tuition. Alamo Heights in San Antonio area was charging over $14,000 tuition to a public school. And you went through, basically the same protocol of private school. They were doing interviews with the parents. They were looking at your academic attainment. They were looking at the ability, and then they were charging you that kind of money. So what's exciting is that now San Antonio ISD says we're going to open enrollment because that little bit of external pressure that you talked about, they're going, parents are now going to have choices. We want to give them choices so they stay in our system. Yeah. And I can imagine that we're going to see even greater changes and opportunities in San Antonio because they are responding now to parents and not to that systemic pressure
That's right.
that have been doing it. So I'm really excited. I think we'll see it at HISD.
We should see it at any school district that is experiencing a decline.
Yes.
If nothing else, I mean, it's just good practice to see, you know, we're experiencing decline that is less revenue for our school district or less, and we want more children. We have the capacity to have more children. Right. So let's open it up and see what that does.
That's right. Let's open it up and let's listen to the parents.
Yeah. For sure.
Because they really are parents, and that was, again, what this is all about, is I talk to parents in the public school system all the time. You're a public school parent. I'm a public charter school parent. Yeah. I have the ability to not be in a public school or public charter school. I am very blessed. But we chose it because that was what we thought was best for our kids. And the school is absolutely amazing. It's a classical education. That's what I wanted. But I always have that ability to know I can leave. And the reality is the majority of parents in Texas have never had that ability, especially our low income and disadvantaged students. And now they have that ability to go to the administrator and say, this not having a dress code where, I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I'm driving past the high school near my house that I see young ladies and I'm thinking, oh, my dear, you look like you went to the swimming pool as opposed to school. Yeah. And how do we expect, you know, kids to learn when their classmates are half naked? I mean, like, I want parents to go back and be like, we're not going to do this. We're going to implement the dress code. Or I don't want to have, you know, this type of political identity politics in my kids' class. So I really am encouraged that I think that all of our public school system is going to be on the up and up because they're no longer going to be responsive to the political pressures, the association pressures, the systemic pressures. They're now responsive to parents.
Yeah, and you know that's a huge thing. And here's what I've been finding when I've been talking to people, and myself included. A lot of these mechanisms, the school choice mechanism. Let's talk about just like open enrollment at a charter school or entering into a school choice application process for a public school. Those are not easy to navigate.
Right.
Like literally, like when my child was 3 or 4, I did like a dry run on the school choice process because I was like, okay, next year we got to go full throttle. It's kinder. Right. Let me see how this looks for pre-K in a public school because I wanted to be sure that I understood how to navigate because I have a lot of friends from a lot of areas. And one of my friends were complaining, we have 5 degrees between the two of us and we couldn't figure it out. And I say that because the same thing is going to be happening with the ESA program. The same, you know, we have to make sure that we are educating parents on their options, their choices, and their rights.
Yes.
And I believe that when we do that, it brings down some of the pressure of, I don't know how to navigate this thing. Oh, this is a system. It feels like a system. I don't know what to do. I have to do what I'm told. Right. You know, I think we have to truly empower our parents. And educate them with the tools and resources to understand, hey, here's how you navigate. We're here to support you. We're going to get this done.
Yes.
You know, because I see so many parents, especially some of our emerging bilinguals, and especially some of our parents in the underserved communities, they look at the school like another system.
Right.
Period. They look at education like another system.
Yes.
And especially as it relates to those who are not familiar with how to navigate private schools, the application process, now this ESA program on top of it. Right. We have to do a lot of work in supporting and educating our parents and making sure they feel that way so that we don't have this like hesitation or that it's not for me thing.
Yes, 100%. And that is why at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, the whole Parent Empowerment Coalition, there are so many of the great organizations that are committed to engaging with the parents. And, you know, I talk a lot about Families Empowered. They're there in Houston. Colleen Dipple has been doing this. They have literally a call center, parent engagement specialists, where they are able to communicate with parents and say, they're not have any skin in the game of where the child goes, but here are your options based on where you are. Here are the private schools. Here are the charter schools. Here are the public schools. Here are the public schools that will accept transfers. Here's how you do it. And they walk them through it. And that was why it was really important in the ESA legislation that we made sure that there was the ability for the Education Administration Organization that they had to be doing that.
Yes.
They have to be utilizing either call centers or having the ability for parents to call in to walk them through the process. And that is very key. But what I think is even more important than those entities is just parents like you and I talking to it, talking to other parents. And that's where you are going to see that massive change. You're going to see faith leaders saying, hey, we're starting a school. I know Dr. Dana Carson, who has, I love him. I know, you kind of gave a, he's just
and his
wonderful.
Team is amazing.
His team is amazing. And he's been a part of this since before, quite frankly, a lot of those in the minority space.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Thought that this was okay because it was almost the third rail. It definitely is a third rail of politics. But to say it's okay for parents to choose. That's not being mean to teachers. That's not trying to put down a school, but it's okay to recognize. And he was truly an amazing leader. That was the first inner city event that the governor did when he spoke at a parent empowerment night. And I vividly remember we were there, and it was Mattress Mac. It was the late great George Foreman who was there because he got it too. And Dr. Carson allowed us to utilize his church.
Yeah.
And he got a lot of hate from people within his community, even his own church, that thought, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember being at that event and sitting on the stage. And I still wish I had kind of set my phone up to video it because people came in and it was almost a totally minority crowd. We're in inner city Houston. And you could see skepticism. You could see that a lot of the families were like, what?
Yeah.
And they maybe had heard some of this is going to destroy our community or our schools or whatever. And so the event goes on, and Dr. Richard Johnson, Dr. Dana Carson, George Foreman Sr., and the governor, and of course, and the faces of parents. It was like the energy and the posture and the leaning in. And at the end of the event, the stage was swarmed by families going, is this real? Could this really happen?
That's right.
Could this really happen? Could we do it? And it was so exciting. And that's why the network within Houston in particular is that faith network is saying, put me in, coach. Well, and I want to offer this.
You know what? We have to have these trusted leaders.
Yes.
In the church, in the community, sharing this message with us.
Yes.
We have to. We are distrusting
and helping
of systems,
to make it happen.
Helping to make and here's the part I love is that the parents are going to be the ones, the church parishioners, the members, the community should be the ones to galvanize their churches to let's start a school.
Start a school.
I mean, that is it. The parents have to drive this.
Yes.
We have to drive this. If we aren't accountable for our kids' education, and to your point, this has nothing to do with anyone else but our children.
That's right.
Right? I mean, this is about
and giving them the best so they can reach their God-given potential.
That's right.
That's the reality of all of this.
That is
we are failing. At this point, it's millions of kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because half of our kids in the public school system cannot read on grade level. And that's been going on for over a decade.
And I think people, those numbers are so compelling. Sometimes I believe people don't think it's real.
Right.
Because if we did, there would be so much more being done. Like, do we really realize what we're saying here?
Right.
It's not just, it's real stuff.
It's real stuff. It's real lives.
It's real lives.
It's real lives.
It's daunting too because oh my God, is that and let's be clear, we can talk about 5 years ago, we can talk about 10 years ago. I graduated from high school more than that.
I was thinking,
more than that many years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And my parents graduated more than that. And so, but it's like this has been going down for a while.
Yeah.
And COVID exacerbated things, but this is not a COVID problem. This is not a pandemic problem, right? And so we just need to be honest about that so we can right the wrongs and fix it.
That's
and it's only up from here.
Yes.
It's up. We don't have to, we can acknowledge what happened and we can fix it and we can move forward. But we don't have to live in the space because this is present day and we've got opportunity.
That's right. The opportunity is there.
That's right.
And so this is what we're going to see. So we're talking about faith leaders, great education leaders, public school teachers. This is really important, is I did a call recently with Step Up for Students, which is the largest scholarship granting organization, or CEAO, in the country. They administer Florida's program, their school choice program. And they said they, of course, have had school choice for about 20 years, but they haven't had universal for that long. But they've had it for about 20 years. In the past decade, what they can track, and they suspect there's probably some more, but what they can track is over 700 private schools have started. A lot of them are micro schools, and a lot of them, this is really important for our families that have children with special needs, autism, dyslexia, whatever it is. A lot of them are teachers, like the teachers that came up to us at the Juneteenth event, that realize I can love the public school and I can love what we've got going here for the majority of kids, but there are certain kids that aren't thriving. I'm going to start a small private school to serve these communities. And that's what's happening in Florida. You're getting teachers that say, I love you, whatever ISD, but also I see a need here. There's a need, and they're able to start a school that's really curated for the kids and their learning and needs and making the environment that is set up for them. And they're thriving.
Yeah.
And they're thriving.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful story. And if we look at Senate Bill 2 and we look at, what's been earmarked for 26-27, and then we look at 2030, that's expansion.
Yes, ma'am.
That's incentivizing what we're talking about.
Yes.
Right?
I think that's great that you bring that up. So what you're talking about is in the legislation, there is what we call a growth mechanism or an escalator. And while we can't bind future legislators or a future legislature, I challenge them to stand in the way of hundreds of thousands of parents, because that won't go well for mama bears that show up and say, this is what I'm demanding, and the law gives me the right. And what that escalator said was that the legislature has the authority to fund up to the wait list. So right now there's a $1 billion appropriation, which is wonderful, which means about 100,000 kids can utilize the education savings account to select a private school to use for tutoring, therapy, any sort of co-curriculars, fee for transportation providers. They can use it for homeschooling. They can also use it for career and technical education school. I'm talking TSTC, ACC, these schools that are providing real skills for our kids that want to go out into the world and launch.
That's right.
An HVAC tech in Austin starts at around $90,000.
I want to go and be an HVAC because I need one. I
know.
All my friends do.
And kids can use their ESAs to do that. But
no, it's amazing.
This is what it does. It says, okay, there's enough money appropriated for about 100,000 kids, because we don't really know exactly what the demand is, and that's what we push. But in it says, the program, parents are going to have their kids' tushies and seats or utilizing the program in August of 2026. So in a year.
Yeah.
And 5 months later, session's going to be back in place. We're going to know what that demand is.
We're going to have a wait list.
We're going to know what that wait list, and the legislature can fund up to it.
That's right.
And that's massive.
That's huge.
And so that goes to where the projections of this growing.
That's right.
Because we know the parent demand is there.
That's right. And that is why we encourage all parents to educate themselves and put in for an ESA savings account, because we do need to show the demand. To your point, the comptroller has to show the legislature what the demand is, right? And so I think that's beautiful, because I love a good trend. And it's a forecast.
Yes.
It's a forecast on what we can be and where we need to go. And so, and again, it incentivizes the growth of schools and meeting the individual needs. There are very few schools right now, and there are some, and God bless them, who meet these individual needs of different levels of gifted and talentedness, of special education, of all the things. And even if, a kid is behind grade levels, like there's a school that can meet those needs.
Yes.
And so, again, this is, if we're looking at it from a business lens, then this is an industry you want to be in.
Yes.
This is an industry you want to be in, because, and think about all the goodness. We're educating kids and we're growing this opportunity.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned one thing about being, not having to pick and choose, meaning that 2 or 3 things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
I can love my ISD. I can admire and appreciate private schools. I can love the opportunities that charter schools give. I love my homeschool mamas for doing what they need to do for their kids. All those things can be true. Who told us we had to choose?
That's right.
Who told us we had to? Because it's all about educating our kids, and that's what's most important.
Yes.
Right? And so, and I, again, am all about parent empowerment. Engaged parents is is a game changer, no matter where your child is.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
It is. And this is what is so exciting is now parents, particularly those parents that didn't have the ability to pick up and move to a great public school district, don't have the resources to strike the check, don't get the tuition assistance, but they're dissatisfied with the school. Now they have the ability. And I think a lot of times we talk about that you have to have active parents. That's what then transpires into a kid that is prepared to learn, that they are, they're in bed on time, they're gotten up and they have appropriate clothing, they've done their homework, they know they have to respect and listen to their teachers. All of that, when we give parents the ability, so now it's on you, mom and dad. You get to choose. It's not just the skin in the game of your kid. Now you are actively a part of this.
That's right.
So you made this choice.
That's right.
And here's what we expect of you.
That's right.
And public schools can do that too. I hope that public schools start putting expectations
100%.
on the parent engagement.
Well,
I hope that they start holding parents accountable and saying, this is how we do it here. And you know what? If you don't like that we have a dress code here and you don't like that your child's not allowed to wear tube tops and bike shorts to school, because that's happening.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, and we're holding your child in a classroom or in a space to learn it alone, and you're sitting in a school like that, there are other options of schools.
That's right.
And that is important. That's power for the public school system that say, we have to deal with all of this.
Well, that is, one thing that that HISD is really focusing on is having this rigor and structure so that we are focused on education.
Yes.
And we're getting rid of a lot of that noise and distractions.
Yes.
And one thing, when I look at just ISDs in general, especially the larger ones who just have so many issues, it's unfair to put so much on the ISD.
Right.
They're supposed to be educating our
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
And, for me, it's about rallying different services from the city or the county as well, because the ISD needs to do what it's supposed to do. That it's frankly not even doing well in most cases, right?
Right. Well, and that's part of it.
That's right.
Is particularly for our teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers didn't sign up, the majority of them. There are some, God bless them, that do sign up to have those most challenging cases.
Yeah.
They do want to go in. I
Thank
can
God for
remember.
them.
Yes. And they do want to deal with those kids that have real trauma and then they act out in incredibly violent ways. There are people that have that on their heart and they're called to help do that. That is not most teachers.
That's right.
Most teachers say, I want to go in and be able to educate in my field of specialty. I want to be able to make sure that the majority, the 90% of kids that aren't disrupting the classrooms, that aren't using foul language, that aren't showing up at school half naked, whatever it is, that are not causing disruptions, I want to be able to educate them.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean we forget about the other children that need something else. It
We
means
meet
we
their
put them in the
needs.
right environment.
We meet their needs. Well, and again, you got to think about the 20 other kids in that room who want to learn.
I know.
And notice I said 20.
Yep.
Or maybe more, right?
Yep.
Who want to learn. And again, I praise HISD for this, to figure out a system to where we're keeping everybody on task. We're teaching.
Good.
This is rigorous. This is structure. Because we got to catch up.
Yeah.
More than anything, we don't have any time to waste. We don't have time for distractions. So they've built different protocols and mechanisms and procedures to handle that and meet those children's needs while not disrupting the education or the mission for the teacher.
Right.
Right. And so I really appreciate that attention to detail in a school district that's extremely large, and it's a lot to do.
And the results are proving it's working.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the results? They were just released recently to see the takeover is working. Implementing these small changes is working. Can you talk a little bit about the changes? Really, what were some of the changes that HISD made? How did they get rid of the noise? How
Right.
did they raise the expectations and standards? And what are the results that have come in recently?
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And to the point about the hard work that went into it, it was all worth it. You know, for the administration, for the teachers, for the board. Teachers are so excited.
Good.
You know, principals are, so excited that they knew their teachers could do it. You know, let's just talk about that too. Like what we're seeing as far as kids creating goals for themselves and how they're going to grow from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year to the end of the year. And they're seeing that. Like that's an amazing confidence booster for everyone involved, because it is extremely hard work to turn around a school district of that size. And sure, we are concentrated on a number of schools, but it's a lot of schools. It's over 100 schools that were underperforming chronically. And so we tried to catch some before they slipped into that space, right? We tried to be proactive. And it's change. And it's huge. And we have never seen it before anywhere. I got to tell you that it's courageous work, too. It is courageous work. So some of the things that have been happening is, one, there needed to be a real standardization as it related to professional development. So from everybody from the administrative staff to executive directors to principals to teachers, the administration really wanted to bring that professional development in-house and say, here's how we're going to standardize and here's the game plan.
Oh, good.
And there was a reliance on outside sources, which are great and have best practices. It was almost like, okay, family, time to gather up in the room and let's talk about what we're going to do. You know,
Good.
It was like, what can we do? Because we have all this expertise in house. We have all these years of experience. Do we really need to go outside to understand what we need to do? And so that was a real concerted effort from folks who had done it before in different areas. The administration put together a great team of people who were experts in a lot of different fields. But, and I think we have to remember the beauty of the experience is that, again, we're all doing this together for the first time. Yeah. We may have done this or that, or we may have the heart for the work or want to serve, but this is uncharted territory. And I constantly had to remind myself and my colleagues about, like, hey, this is new, but we owe it to our kids to try. Yeah. We owe it to our kids to do something. And so lots of work around high quality instruction, which is huge because, again, it's that standardization. It's that standardization that we need to make sure that every kid is receiving the same message like they should be, and they're getting the same. And if you're behind, then we're going to take some time and we're going to bring you up to speed. If you're advanced, perfect. Here's some more challenging project work or something for you to handle as a child. One thing I think also was hugely instrumental is that basically there's an extra adult in a lot of these underperforming classrooms. So if it's a teacher apprentice or a learning coach that the kids see, to your point about what teachers have to do, imagine if every teacher had an assistant or an apprentice. That would be a teacher's dream, because I can keep doing this. I have someone to do this, because even though, the ratio may be great from teacher to student, there's still so much to do with all these amazing personalities. Yeah. And so the extra support is there for the teacher, which is, again, amazing. Not only that, what that does is that if the teacher is absent, then the teacher apprentice can step up. So there's a consistent person in the classroom that is already familiar with the students, already knows what they're working on, and not a substitute that, we had to call up, which is normal. It's not a bad thing, but hi, Miss Jones, can you come? And this is your first time meeting these students, or you saw them last semester. And so these type of things really are the inputs that make the student outcome results so amazing. And that's what drives it. And these are foundational things that especially get lost or really are hard to be accounted for in a district the size of HISD.
Right. That's awesome. And I know part of that apprenticeship program, having the kids in there, y'all partnered with Texas Southern University, which I just cannot sing their praises enough. They are phenomenal, really recognizing problems and finding solutions. And that was one of them that I do know has been a massive success, is those students, college students going into education have been put in a lot of the HISD classrooms. And that has been really a game changer, both in preparation for the teachers as well as obviously for those kids.
Well, and strategically placed in those classrooms that need them. We're not putting those students in A and B schools.
Right.
We need you here.
Yes.
So that's where you're going. And that partnership with TSU and the College of Education there is just a beautiful thing. And it makes sense because I also believe lived experience and representation means a lot to these kids.
Yes.
You know, who's going to TSU?
Right.
Probably some graduates of these schools that are underperforming.
That's
right. And
yes.
so there's this kinship, there's this familiarity that students thrive in, right?
Yes.
And that makes a lot of sense too.
Right. That they have people that understand their lives, that have been where they've been. Yes, that's
right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on in both the public school sector. Obviously, education savings accounts are going to be a game changer for those that are looking to enter. We've also got new curriculum standards. I know the SBOE is working on the social studies TEKS. I'm really excited and encouraged, hopeful that we get it right, get it more patriotic, make our children understand the absolute greatness of America and Texas and why we have changed the world we're at 249 years right now. But next year is going to be a big year. But there is a whole lot going on here. What is your, before we wrap up here, I really want to know, what is your best advice to parents, to faith leaders, and to education reformers? Look in that camera. Tell them what your best advice is right now so they can prepare for the big changes coming in the next, in the next year, in the next couple years with ESAs, and what they should be preparing for the big changes over the next decade here in Texas.
Right. So we should be very proud that Texas is really leading the nation in education reform. We are doing innovative things here, things that have never been done before. It's so important for educators, parents, our leaders, our community leaders, our faith-based leaders to really understand and be able to share the goodness of what the opportunities truly are. If there are problems, what's the solutions? We need to have solution-based conversations, come together, and really talk about the future for our children. And so does Texas go, the rest of the nation goes. So it's up to us and our community to make a difference. We are being empowered. We have a resourced opportunity here that we cannot squander. And I really think we need to take a tough lens and look at it and really do what's best for our kids. We owe it to them.
Thank you so much for fighting for your kids. Thank you for fighting for the kids in HISD and for all that you're doing to totally reform this system to put every child on a path to success and to reach their full potential. Thank you for joining us today on Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. And now you have the power.